Let's get into it. Let's grade these non-finalists. So it's time to take stock of the 10 teams whose season is over. Again, caveat there with a little asterisk. We'll go in reverse ladder order. So we'll start at the bottom. The Eagles, 1-22 this year, a percentage of 60.1 under Andrew McQualter.
Yeah.
What is their grade?
I mean, I think one of the easier ones to do, it's a clear-cut F, I would have thought. And I'm going to want to hear Christian and yourself, but keen to hear Christian's thoughts on these as well as to whether he thinks they're fair, unfair, or whatever. But diabolical, really. I mean, you said it. You gave the numbers, so I'm not going to repeat them. But I think the fact that we haven't really seen any improvement, we keep thinking, they must be at the bottom, they must be at the bottom. And then every year they seem to top themselves by being worse. Harley Reid had some moments, but probably not quite at the heights we thought. Oscar Rallins now looks like he's gone.
Yeah.
If I'm an Eagles fan, what is something that I'm legitimately 100% excited for next year right now that I can bank on? Is it I get to watch Harley Reid again and hope he stays? Like I don't know what
They'll get 2 picks in now. They'll get picks 1 and 2.
Okay,
so there's a couple more names there.
There's more names, but it's not like no matter who you get, they're not going to come in and just turn things around immediately. I don't think any one of us doubt, assuming they can keep these guys, I don't think anyone doubts that they're going to get to a point where they've got so much top-end talent that they're going to start winning games. Yeah. But I don't think there's any guarantee next year that they win 5 games?
No, but it's going to take a long time. I think we've seen signs from players like Job Shanahan this year, but again, he's 19, 20, if that. So the list build is going to take time, unfortunately. And we knew that this was going to be the case, and we knew that the bottom is going to be more of a protracted bottom.
But I think 24 months ago, people were sort of thinking that might have been sort of the bottom, that they were starting to come back up. I'm not 100% sure this year is the bottom. If next year they did the exact same thing, would you be stunned?
How bad have their stats been? Could it be the bottom or could they be worse? Could they fall further?
I don't know how you'd predict that, but yeah, just looking at, especially with the bottom 3 or 4 sides, I tried to look into this exercise and try to find the non-obvious things in game style of what can we look forward to? What did sort of stand out? What is starting to turn? So start with the negative, which is easy to do. So the worst clearance differential ever across the season. So you talk about that first use of the ball, it was that they were on the back foot more than any team's ever been across the season. And then you look at the bookend stats as we call them. So worst team at converting their own forward 50 into a score, but also the worst team at defending the other team from getting into a score. So we've seen some other bad teams sort of flood back and maybe become 13th or 14th for scores per inside 50 against, where you're still easy to score against, but you're just stacking so much. They conceded a score more than anyone else. Then you got the 2 main score sources that we always say. You just want to show something from there. 18th for points from turnover differential and 18th for points from clearance differential. So those 4 stats there last for either bookend and last for both main avenues to score. It doesn't look great. And the only one stat that I could sort of see that sort of wasn't bottom 2 for West Coast is, and it's a very low ranking still, 14th for turning an intercept to a score. So I take that one little number, and that's something I'd be focusing on West Coast.
Well, maybe that's their blueprint and how they want to be scoring.
Are we going to be for day one? Do we want to look at ourselves as a hard to play against team where we're going to just make it a contest and win contested possessions, or do we want to be a defensive team that just floods back and doesn't try to score, or do we want to be an offensive team where we'll just get scores conceded against us and but we'll just try to put as much as we can?
Yeah.
This 14th interceptor score probably points to that way a little bit. Maybe open the game up a little bit more. You've got to have to cop a lot of high scores against you, but if you're going to develop these players into being their best, maybe they're a good ball movement side rather than a strong inside contested possession team.
Well, we probably thought that 17th would be fair for the Tigers going into the year, but 5 wins, 18 losses and a percentage of 66. I dare say that's probably over what some people might have expected from Richmond going into the season.
Oh, I think absolutely. I've given them a B. The Tigers, I think there are a lot of people in footy media, some sitting at this desk right now.
Are you looking at me?
I am looking at you, but it was myself that said it, that thought they may not win a game. And I wasn't the only one. There were a bunch of people.
Hang on. I'll give yourself some credit. I think we said that they were more likely to not win a game than win 3 or more.
Yeah.
And they've blasted that out of the water.
Yeah,
so fair play to them.
Yeah, and I think they've got... I think the most important thing about not having the totally demoralising 1-22 Eagles-esque season is that, exactly that. You don't walk away being like, what was the point all year? Just almost like hanging your head in shame. I think that is a real tick for them to be in a bunch of games. Were they blown out a few times? Yeah, they were. But you have a stat on them for this year as well that they didn't.
Well, they didn't get beaten by 100 points this year.
That's surprising. I think people would have been stunned if you said that at the beginning of the year.
You'd have put money on that happening at least once.
So I think it's been a really strong year for them, for a side that we didn't expect much from, and some really nice improvement from some young players.
Yeah, so looked at the positive thing for them that I can see they're starting to work on with Adamuse is their ball movement, and we talked about all year that's where the game is going, less contests, less clearances, and a lot more to do with ball movement and transition and being smart with the ball. So their ranking this year, they were the 13th best team from going from defensive midfield to score, 12th best team at going back 50 to forward 50. Doesn't seem like high numbers. Better than Adelaide in both areas.
Interesting.
So if you start in the back half, Richmond versus Adelaide, Richmond was more likely to score or get it inside 50 than Adelaide was all year, and Adelaide finished on top of the ladder. Used the 45 the third most often of any side, so they're trying things that you can actually see that
there's a brand under the ball, right?
Yeah, so that's the one thing I like about them.
I like that he's given them a license. It's like we're not going to win many games, we're not going to win many quarters, but I want to give my players confidence.
Yeah, and that's where you start with is when we've got the ball, what do we want to do with it? What do we want to be? I think their ball movement, that's going to be their MO going forward, and that's probably what Adamuse's brought in quicker than most people have noticed, I reckon, because of their results sort of don't jump out at the page at you. But then when you actually go watch them, you look at their numbers, like they've got some idea of what they're doing with ball in hand.
In terms of their draft class, big ticks across the board. I know that Sam Lawler missed a few games here and there with hamstrings, and Josh Smiley was out for a while.
Team. Another huge tick I don't think people give enough credit for. They're playing finals in the VFL this year, Richmond as well. So you're a young team like that. If your twos can be playing, finals.
Yep.
Huge tick for them.
From one team where you probably are excited for a 5-win season to a team where you might be a little bit disappointed for a 5-win season. Yes, there's a draw in there. So they were 5-17-1, the Kangaroos, with a percentage of 76.3. How did you grade them, Jake?
Stealing a little bit of my thunder there. I got a D. As you said, they were tipped to sort of take not a seismic leap, but a step forward. I think you can.
Sorry, groundbreaking stuff from you. I didn't know I was stepping on your toes there.
Well, come on. I got sent you some of my notes. But at the end of the day, they still finished in the bottom three, along with the two aforementioned poor sides, and only 2 points clear of the Tigers, who we just said many people didn't think they'd win a game. So I think probably not a great season from North. The other thing is 5 wins. They didn't really beat anyone of note. They did have the draw against Brisbane, which is probably their best result. The number that stands out to me is that they're still conceding 103 points a game. And we saw it again this weekend. Like they kicked 100 points themselves against the Crows. They lost.
Yeah, so that's sort of what I'm saying. Maybe West Coast needs to visit something like that. It's going to be a lot of pain. There's going to be high scores against. But what are you doing with ball in hand? Are you actually improving yourself offensively? And you're right. They put on 100 points themselves, so it's a little bit of an improvement there.
It is an improvement. I think a D. I think we probably would have wanted to see more like 7 to 8 wins this year for a team like North.
Yeah. Some thoughts on North?
Yeah, so quick 2 numbers of West Coast. Richmond showed they were sort of outside. The ball movement's probably where they want to go. North's probably the opposite. So the outside stuff, they had the second best disposal efficiency of any side, but the second slowest ball movement of any side, with Freo were last. So slow ball movement doesn't necessarily mean bad, but it means they're taking less risks with the ball. Second least direct of any side. So distance to goal is the big one we're talking about, where Freo were more mid-table in. North are second lowest in that. So you look at their ball usage, they don't turn it over much, and they've got pretty good disposal efficiency numbers, but they're not doing much with it. Third fewest inside 50s of any team. But the big one for me is they're 17th for points from turnover this year, 4th for points per game from stoppage. So we've been big on it. I've been big on Sheasel and Wardlaw. I think we're going to be the best 1-2 punch in the competition. I would have said it a few years ago. LDU playing in there, Tom Powell, or 2 years ago or whenever it was. I always thought they
when they're in diapers.
They haven't been as good as I thought. But I think that's where they're building their game around this unbelievably strong midfield. The more connection, the more games that Wardlaw, LDU, and Sheasel, Powell play together. Hopefully, they get even better connection. They got an All-Australian type ruckman, whether he gets there or not, Tristan Cherry. That is their clear strength. And as I said, 4 for points per game for a team that's so low and so low in points for as well. It's a clear strength of their game that burst out of stoppages. And their best win of the year against Melbourne, I think, was one of the best scoring games from clearances by any side this year.
So we've had Eagles F, Tigers B, Kangas D. Any qualms with any of these so far?
Tigers were generous, but no, that's
Seems like
about
North,
right.
you might be talking yourself into more like a C minus.
No, well, I'll keep the bad mark because of the trade they made in last preseason. They gave away their first round pick to bring in, is it Jack or Matt? I think it was Jack Whitlock that they brought in, or Matt Whitlock.
Matt Whitlock.
Yeah, Matt Whitlock.
Jack's at Port, right?
Yeah, I keep getting them mixed up. But so whether they expected more from themselves, they've given up their own pick and they've just finished second, giving up pick 2 and
Well,
pick
that's
3.
they would have banked on themselves probably winning a few more, as you said.
Yeah, I think so.
Bombers are next on there, 6 and 16. Of course, they've still got one more match to go. But after a pretty bright start, they just sort of faded.
Yeah, look, I think people often say that injuries, that's an excuse. Everyone has injuries. Not like Essendon. Not like Essendon. I mean, go and have a look at their injury list. It's kind of comical how long it got.
So what's the grade?
So the grade's a D, which might feel...
D plus?
They might feel... Well, I was going to say might feel a bit generous, given that they're going to likely end the year with 12 straight losses. But don't forget, they were 6 and 4 when they were healthier at the beginning of the year. Now, were they smashing good teams? No, they weren't. But 6 and 4 approaching the bye is a pretty good spot to be in. You're beating the teams that you should beat. So I think the injuries have sort of... I don't think they... Do you think they lose 12 straight without the injuries? Let's just say
Probably
they had
not.
average level injuries for the rest of the year. I think they probably end up winning maybe 9 or 10 games, and I think that's probably where we think they're at. So I would have probably given them a C at that point. I think that's kind of around the point where they are. Yeah, I just don't think we can be too harsh given the injuries. I think you got to look at it as that's just what happened.
Seems like they're going to embrace a build as well, so they could be a couple of years of pain.
I think they have to.
Does Zach Merritt
Stay?
Yeah, well, obviously he's the skipper of the club, but like,
Oscar Allen's the skipper, and he's walked
will
off.
there be success in his time? He's played now game 250, getting on in age. I mean, he's not old, but I mean, this is the stuff you got to weigh up as a club champion. Is like if you decide to go down that build path, that's 2, 3, 4 potentially years.
We've said a similar thing about Patrick Cripps in the past, Marcus Bontempelli, these guys, where it's like, yeah, what do you do? You sort of you're in your prime at the moment. I mean, I don't know. Only he can answer that question. But yeah, I think definitely the next couple of years, it's looking a bit more downward trajectory than upward, I would have thought.
Yeah, so for Essendon, I think even you spoke about their decent record at the start of the year. The one thing that we found with them, and don't want this to be a ball movement segment, but they weren't sort of playing as aggressive as everyone else. Their defence is based on just hold on to the ball as much as possible. Don't let the opposition have as much time in possession, and that's how we'll defend. Their back 50 was still getting opened up against. They were still sort of easy to score from intercept. It was just that they weren't intercepting it much. So whether the injuries compounded this sort of style of game, but they were last for distance to goal. So I spoke about North being second last. Essendon was the lowest for distance to goal this year. Lowest kick to handball ratio, so they actually handballed the ball more. So it wasn't a whole lot of backwards kicks. It was flick the ball around by hand, but not sort of gain any metres. They were 16th for metres gained from handball. So top 5, I think, for handballs per game, but 16th for metres gained from handball. So we speak about the Giants, Gold Coast, Collingwood especially, the Damien Hardwick blueprint of take ground with handball and be attacking through your hands.
So it looks like they're just fluffing around with it's not the right term, but they're trying to find an outlet and it just never comes.
Yep, and I think it's also to protect themselves. They don't have the strongest back 6, but then you go to the next number here, it's 17th for points against from turnover. So for all that time you had it and for all that little risk you take, you still gave up the second most points of anyone from turnover. So it would have been very, very hard after round 11 or 12 to sort of, if you are rebuilding, you couldn't have planned for the future at that stage. You were just bringing in so many different blokes into different positions all the way around.
Tough.
But it will be the one thing to watch is if Brad Scott can bring a more aggressive ball movement, style to this team next year.
Yeah, and look, it's going to take time when you think about Matt Rosa taking over as a list manager. This is only his second season or off season in charge with trying to get the list that he and that Scott wants. So obviously Adrian Dodoro had fingers in many pies for many years at that club, and that list that he built is his. And so there will be time where it's going to take time for this to kind of transition.
Yeah, I think a lot of these. I mean, these 10 teams we're going through aren't finishing outside the 8. It's not a coincidence. All these teams are going to have work to do.
Next on the list, so what are we? 18, 17, 16, 15, 14th. Demons, 7 and 16 on the year, 93.3%. How did you grade them?
Sounds like a radio station. You may think this is harsh, or maybe not you, but some of our listeners may think it's harsh.
Let us know at Footy Tips.
I've gone an F. I think this is their worst season. I know Simon Goodwin's no longer, but it's the worst year of the Goodwin era, undoubtedly.
Oh, he's been sacked.
Thank you very much for that. But a sack coach, Only 7 wins. Questions over some of your star players, what they're going to do yet again, may I add, because this has been an ongoing trend for 2 or 3 years now. Tension between some of your most experienced players. We obviously spoke about Stephen May and Max Gawn. I guess the other thing with Gawn is this sort of, he's an older player, but this really surprised me this morning when I was having a look. He's going to be 34 years of age the next time he plays a game.
Jeez, yeah.
That is
For a ruckman.
really worrying. And it's not as if he's fallen off a cliff. He's been excellent this year. But we talk about talking about Zach Merritt before, captain of a club where you think, gee, where are we going to get there? I know he's won a flag already, but how many more years has he got left? 1, 2 at a high level? I mean, the same can be said about a number of Melbourne players. So I don't know if you can name a positive, and this is probably where I landed on the F. I don't think you can name a single positive from Melbourne's season.
I'll go Harvey Langford for you, but yeah.
2 Rising Star noms. So Langford and Xavier Lindsay both nominated throughout the year for the Rising Star.
They were both high draft picks. You'd expect they both be nominated. I mean, 24 players get nominated, so you'd expect. No, they've been good, but it's not as if they've one of them's going to win it. It's just. I don't know. I think I'll give it to you. I think that's fair. But what else? I mean, there's not much else. I mean, if you want to say, well, they've got the Goodwin. They've got Goodwin out and they can sort of focus on what to do next. Yeah. But, I mean, is that a positive?
Yeah, that's an unknown.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just think it's been a very ordinary year for the Ds. And, yeah, I think people were sort of wondering whether they were going to take that sort of jump back up again after a couple of poor seasons.
Yeah. So Goodwin, the whole time he was there, contest defence. So they remain the number 1 team for contested possession differential this year. So for the 4th time in 5 years, they finished number 1 in that stat. I think only Carlton's the only other team that's finished number 1. So yeah, continually got their hands to the ball first, but 16th for pressure. So if they didn't get to the hands of the ball first, they were not close enough to the opposition to be able to actually put pressure on. Finished the season 10th for points for and 12th for points against. So you talk about contest and defence. Their defence was actually worse than their offence. First time that their offence has ranked higher since 2018. So
yeah, right.
I think only the second time in Goodwin's tenure where...
But I don't think that's the offence being better. It's just the defence being
that's how far
poorer.
the defence has dropped off, really.
You can't be outside the top.
But one thing I will throw up for the forward line and things like that, because we spoke about it a lot during the year, and they had some losses where they win the inside 50 count by 20, but they lose a game. We're like, typical Melbourne. They were the 6th best team for turning an inside 50 into a score this year. The best,
Melbourne-like?
Best of the bottom 10. So that wasn't really their issue. Their season was a bit of a weird one. Their issues that they used to have sort of got fixed, but then all their strengths just fell apart, except for the contested possession part, but the defensive structure, their ability, they never used to lose one-on-ones. They were getting beaten more in one-on-ones, etc., etc. But yeah, I think the myth that it was Melbourne's forward line and Melbourne don't have any sort of structure going forward, I think Goodwin had fixed that this year. It's just that it wasn't noticeable because it just didn't breed the results that you would have liked.
So is F a fair call?
I think if you're losing a coach, I think.
Yeah,
it's
I was literally going to say. I think if you sack a coach, you've failed the season.
Yeah.
So yeah, fair enough, Jake. Let us know at Footy Tips on Twitter what you think about that. Power is next. They finished 13th, 9-14, percentage of 79.8.
Speaking of coaching changes, it's a bit of a weird year because we've obviously known it's happening for a while with the Hinkley Carr situation. D-, a little like the Bombers, some injuries to deal with. Now, they didn't have as long of an injury list, but they had a very important injury list. So Todd Marshall, Zach Butters, Jason Horne-Francis, Jack Lukosius all missed big stretches throughout. They're all very important players. 9 wins, but I mean, bottom 6 finish. Very disappointing.
Prelim last year.
Yeah, very disappointing. So I'll just hold off on the F, but I'll give him a D-.
So 4 of their worst losses under Hinkley were all this year. Their 4 worst losses under Hinkley. Which, I mean, you always talk about this team as playing for the coach, and we've said this. I mean, they did in the
Maybe
last
they
game.
did, yeah.
But they have had some real horror results, and just not what you've come to expect from a Port Adelaide team led by Hinkley.
Yeah, and we had a look. I mean, I'm sure you look every week, Christian, but we were looking about around the bye rounds when they were at their worst. They found a little something at some points in the back end of the year, but at the halfway point of the year, their numbers on the premiership report were like not just poor, but almost. You're like, well, what's the difference between them and Richmond and West Coast?
Well, they're next to North Melbourne. You could almost get those two mixed
up.
So
it was really, really dire. Now, I think they've managed to just improve in a bunch of areas, but yeah, I think the thing with Port is which job would you rather have, the Melbourne job or the Port job for next year?
I think in their current list forms, I think I'm probably taking Port Adelaide.
And that's probably why I've gone with the better market. Again, I think the players that they've missed this year have been important. You can't control health, but I think they get 4 or 5 of those key players back.
Yeah.
That are not just best 23 players, probably best 10 players, and it makes a big difference.
Powers numbers this year?
Yeah, just simply compared it to last year. So 8th for points for last year. They're only mid-table, 15th this year, so dropped right off. But it was their defence last year, which were 3rd for points against last year, 14th this year. 4th best at turning their own inside 50 into a score. So 4th best last year, 14th this year. Going from back 50 to forward 50, they were 3rd best last year, 15th this year. Inside 50 differential, so just keeping the ball down there. 4th last year, 14th this year. So a whole lot of areas where Port never were, they were never a big disposal team. They didn't take high marks. They didn't have like high metres gain handball, which we spoke about with some of the other teams. They were just efficient, just very, very minimal disposals, get it forward, keep it forward, score a goal. This year, bottom 3 or bottom 4 for disposal differential. And their actual ability to move the ball and lock it in all dropped away. So a lot of, as you said, they probably didn't get enough a lot of people have said that it was a failure of having this handover.
I think people realise how poorly
how much
they were
the
going.
bottom fell out of Port Adelaide really across the year. That there was almost nothing but around 17 or 18. It's like, you're doing nothing anymore. You don't have anything that you're doing well.
Saints are next on the ladder. So they finished 12th. They were 9-14. 88.5 is the percentage. But...
yeah, so St Kilda's maybe the hardest team to rank here, I felt, or rate. I went with a C-. I'll explain why. I sort of split the difference a bit. I think re-signing Wanganeen Miller, which we spoke about 2 weeks ago.
A+ result.
As A+ as it gets, for the perfect result. Now, whether it's a long term, whether he stays there for his career, we don't know. We'll wait and see. But they did what they had to do. He's there. He's playing next year. That is the good news. The bad... as you said, 9 wins. Now, you think St Kilda, if you said 9 wins at the start of the year, you're like, oh yeah, it sounds about right for St Kilda. It's actually their worst, not to mention 5 of those 9 wins, they scraped over the line. Now, I know you can look at it both ways, but they scraped over the line and we know they weren't beating great sides. But it was their worst return in 7 years.
Is that right? 9 wins is their
9
worst
wins?
return in 7 years.
And that surprised me. I think they had another year that they also had 9. But
percentage is worse.
They haven't they haven't had an 8-win or worse season since 2018. So it just felt like they probably...
underachieved?
yeah, because I think...
I mean, look, they started pretty poorly.
It's hard. You can't say, well, they signed Naz and they only won 9 games, which is their worst year or second worst year in 8 years, 7 years, so we'll give them a B. I think it's still got to be somewhere in the middle. So,
but post-bye, they were pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that's what the numbers pointed to me is they got a little bit more offensive, and he's actually, Ross Lyon, I'm talking about, he's actually brought the offense to the team as he's got more confident with the players he's got at his disposal. I don't think he's gone as heavily defensive. Last year, a lot of chipping around, sort of said they had too much of the ball in the back half and tried to do too much going end to end. But yeah, sort of round 0 to 12, they had their bye in round 13. So pre-bye, they were the 13th for turning an intercept to a score. Post-bye, 4th. Always talk about that's a massive part of the game, is just how well you can win the ball back from the opposition and actually convert that into a score. Going the other way, so protecting their own intercepts, they were the second easiest to score against from round up until round 12. Come back from the bye and they become like the 6th hardest team to score against from turnover. So tightened up a little bit on the defensive end, but got so much better offensively. Defensive midfield, talked about how important that zone is to be able to launch from. 10th best at going from defensive mid to score pre-bye. Number 1 post-bye. So the best team at starting in that position where Wanganeen Malera is dominating and Jack Sinclair and things like that. It was their issue last year. A lot of their play was starting in the defensive midfield, but not ending up anywhere. This year they got a lot more proficient at it, especially after the bye. So their whole, looking at what we call their attacking rank, where we take into account 4 or 5 numbers, they went from the 11th best attacking team round 0 to 12 to 6th best round 14 to 24. So that to me, I think, as I said, I think it's that trust factor. I think he's starting to get a bit more comfortable with what he's got at his disposal, and they're actually going to sort of, hopefully next year sort of
bullish on the Saints next year.
Yeah, start to
they play
mix it with the
finals?
boys.
Yeah, they could play finals. It's tough to play finals. I mean, 8 out of 18. It's tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
Good teams make it. Good teams miss out.
Yeah, and players quickly become forgotten when they're not playing. But someone like Max King would make a big difference to that
Yeah,
club.
if he can get fit, that's for sure. The Blues are next on that list, so they were 9-14 as well, but their percentage was a bit higher, so 96.7. What do you grade them as?
Carlton was the easiest team to grade this year, and I've gone with an F. I think Carlton was the worst team this year comfortably in terms of expectation and what we thought. Obviously, West Coast worse, but in terms of expectation, incredibly disappointing. Assuming the Suns beat Essendon, which we've sort of said about 3 or 4 times, Carlton's going to miss finals by 6 wins plus percentage. So 7 wins. They're going to miss finals by 7. They only won 9 games. That's just embarrassing. That's not good enough. Patrick Cripps looks beaten up. He looks sort of dejected. Charlie Curnow might have played his last game for the club. Voss has to be on the shortest of leashes now. I just think it's been an absolutely dire year. And really, as I said, for a couple of these clubs, what are the positives to take away? And don't you dare look me in the eye and tell me it's Frankie Evans having a half-decent 3 weeks. That's not enough. That's not enough to give the Carlton fans hope that next year there will be a return to finals, because it's not as if they've missed out. They're sort of, as Carlton fans, we've known our club's not going to be featuring in September for probably 2 months now.
For the Blues, it's a tale of 2 halves, literally, when you talk about the first and second halves, and it has been all year.
So, yeah, 7th best team pre-half-time in terms of points differential. So, plus 118 points across the season in first half.
Great, love that.
7th.
Yeah, awesome.
Negative 180 in second half, which was 13th. I think that was boosted by I think they won the second half by about 16 or 17 against Essendon in the final round. So that would have been worse 1 week out. But sort of speak about there is some positives. So Carlton were same as Melbourne, just basically too much reliance on contested possession, had to win the clearances to sort of keep themselves in the game, and then the turnover game was completely lost. That was 2 years ago or so when they made finals. This year it's sort of, especially moving the ball themselves, they were the 6th best team at going D50 to forward 50. So that's one of those metrics on the premiership standards that 10 out of the last 10 premiers are ranked top 6 in. So the 6th for moving the ball. Also 6th best at just stopping the opposition from scoring from any chain. So defensively they held up. Their ball movement from end to end was actually fairly good. Sorry, it was actually 5th best from D50 to forward 50. But it was, exactly. It was once they got it in there, they were 14th for points for, 16th for score per inside 50. So it's that final kick or final 2 kicks away from goal where they're either got to hit a leading target or actually nail the finishing goal where they really, really struggled with. But again, it was one of those myths of, and they're one of the lowest skilled teams going in terms of disposal efficiency, and kicking efficiency is all bottom 3. But they did do pretty well moving the ball from one end to the other, which is step 1. But I think it's the front half skill level and the actual ability to hit someone in front of goal for an easy target is where they fall over.
Yeah, and I think the way you've said that, it's almost like, well, they're doing the one thing right. This isn't a team that's building. This is a team that's supposed to be built and ready. So to say, well, they're doing this thing right, but these other 5 things they're not, that's not good enough. Let me ask you this, and we'll move on. If Carlton start 2-5 next year, and I know you can say it depends who they lose to, is Michael Voss still there?
Depends who they lose to.
Oh, should he be there? No way. He goes into next season under the most pressure of any coach by a mile.
Really quickly.
I was just going to say, just on your point about, I think the areas of the game where they're excelling at, it's a starting point. It's the skill side of it that I think is easier to fix. You're not everyone's going to come back next year and be able to kick. But in terms of
the hardest thing to fix.
Professional football.
But in terms of Michael Voss having a game style where it's like, well, we're not going to get bogged down the back half. We're not going to have 60 inside 50s conceded against us. There's something there, but it's the execution and it's the final sort of stages out there that needs to improve. It's not they don't need a wholesale change to how they're playing, I don't think.
So big jump up the ladder. Well, 3 games up the ladder. But the Swans are next. They were 12-11 in 2025. Percentage of 97. Started slow, had injury problems, but then sort of finished pretty well, Jake.
Yeah, they were sort of heading for F territory for the first 2 months of the season, and then they closed the year 8-3. Saved a bit of face, but we can't forget that they played in a grand final last year, so the expectations were high. I've gone D because of that. I can let you talk me into an F, but I think D. I'm happy with the D. Also, can't forget that it's new coaches come in. Under a new regime, Dean Cox, a lot of pressure. And it took a while to sort of build into the season. So
Chris Scott managed that okay when he came in.
Yeah, well, he did, but people tell me Chris Scott's one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Dean's there yet. I know we're throwing forward, but I might bump it from a D to a C if they manage to poach Charlie Curnow late in 6 weeks, 2 months, whenever, depending on what they give up for him. But yeah, look, I don't think it's... Obviously, to go from grand final to missing finals is disastrous in its own right. But I think the fact that they ended the year 8-3, when they had some players back, it showed, resilience.
When everyone's on the park.
Yeah, I'd prefer that than the other way around, where they start strong and just fall off the cliff. Because then you're left thinking, what's going to happen next year? But I think there's enough that we've seen to be like, fix the forward line issue, get someone there, because we still know, we look at those, the big three, little three, disappointing three, whatever you want to call them, their three key forwards. You can replace all three of them with Charlie Curnow or someone else, and you're all of a sudden, you laugh, but you're back in the contest.
Really quickly, some numbers on the Swans.
So you go back and look at last year, and the signs were there that the defensively last year they weren't as strong as the finishing position of runner-up should have been. So last year, in terms of defending an intercept to score, they were 12th best last year at stopping the opposition from scoring from their own turnover. 12th this year, so didn't get any better. Clearance to score percentage, they were actually 10th last year for protecting a clearance to go into a score. They're 6th this year, so it improved slightly defensively. Conceding a score from defensive midfield to the opposition, they were 14th last year, 12th this year. So those rankings of 12th, 10th and 14th of last year didn't scream grand finalists at all. But it was the flip side. There was the offense that they were just so reliant on their stars, so reliant on their firepower. Last year, best team scoring from an intercept, dropped to 7th this year. Last year, second best team from scoring from a clearance, 11th this year. Best team from scoring from defensive mid, 6th this year. Best team last year at converting an inside 50 into a score, 13th this year. So wrap all those up. They were number one offensive last year, 12th this year. You look at their defensive rank, went from 13th last year to 10th this season. So behind the ball, nothing to worry about. Sure. It's just how do you find more support for those three stars that if they're not at their best, can other players?
We said this last year, those three stars,
they're very
all
reliant.
in the midfield as well. You got to get some forward line firepower, some attacking.
Yeah, I mean, they do get goals out of them.
How good Tom Papley was clearly their match winner this weekend, playing that role that they need more from. Yeah.
So, Dean, go out and get someone. If someone is on the table, someone who can kick 60, 70 goals a year, you've got to go and get them, don't you?
Yes.
We're running really late here. Bulldogs, we did talk about them earlier, but geez, they look like they're going to be the unlucky team to finish in 9th, 14-9, a record percentage to miss the 8 of 137.
There you go again, stealing my notes.
Are you prepared to give them an F?
I'm going to give them a D-, because I can't give them an F because they haven't missed out yet.
Dogs fans,
according to you,
if Essendon comes from the clouds, you can thank us because we're putting the mods on the Suns here. But you're giving them a D-, the Dogs.
Yeah, look, they tick every box. They have the 3 best players in the league according to 100x ratings. They are ones all across the board on the Premiership report. They look like world beaters against anyone in the bottom 7, 8. But then anyone in the top 8, they just can't seem to beat. I said it at the start, 2-9 against top 9 teams this year. It's not good enough for a team that we continually just think is a contender. Now, I sort of touched on this earlier, but you can say, well, they're frauds. Are they frauds? Maybe. Or are they the most honest side and we just continue to overrate them? Because they keep showing us what they are. We beat everyone below us. We don't beat anyone above us.
If they didn't have the 3 best players in the competition and weren't second for scoring from intercept, first for scoring from clearance, first for scoring from defensive midfield, I'd say that they were an honest team. Yeah. But they are not an honest team. They are a very, very good team that could not get it done against the best teams in the competition. So
they're frauds?
They're frauds.
Yeah, I'm a little bit leaning towards you because their record against bottom 10, everyone plays against the bottom 10 teams. So yeah, they beat the bottom 10 teams. They beat them better than all the other teams.
They smash it. Yeah.
12 zip. 186.6% was their percentage against those teams, which was second. But then they're 2-9, and as you said, like their percentage against the top 8 was only 99.5%. So those 2 wins were quite healthy against the Giants, and a lot of their losses were by lower margins.
Yeah.
But when you look at those 2 numbers, and as I said, the bottom 10, everyone says, everyone beats the bottom 10 by a lot. Well, no, only one other team beat the bottom 10 more than the Bulldogs did. So they clearly beat up on that opposition. You know, stats-wise, you talk about the offense and defense, we've got 4 stats that go into offense. Number 1 in that, 4 stats wrap into defense, they're 11th. Going across, and you want to finish top 6 for points against to be a premiership chance, sort of saying. They've only done that twice under Luke Beveridge. So only twice has Luke Beveridge actually got them to be a top 8 defensive team. Both of those times they finished top 6. Like this year, I think they're 9th or so for points against, and every year they've sort of been 9th, 10th or 11th. So The same thing is staring him in the face again. It's defence and beat the better team.
Just really quickly, those 100X numbers, those 3 players, can you name them?
Yeah, Marcus Bontempelli. Sam Darcy, I think, was first by 1 minute. So we use you have to play 75% of the season to think. So I think when I did these numbers, he's actually been updated to first. And he qualifies by playing 1 minute more than he needed to be the minimum. So he's the number 1 player in the comp. Bontempelli second and Ed Richards third. So that is across all positions.
And there's a world that exists where none of them will be all Australian this year.
Yes, that's
they might all
that's
be.
fair.
They might
so,
all
okay,
be.
all right. I know we're running late on this, but what does Bevo do? Because I think defence is the biggest problem that he has. O'Donnell was sort of shown up. Bustlinger got subbed out. Jones is out of favour. You've got Aaron Norton up there, who's had one of the best years of his life forward. But you've got Jordan Croft, who's now coming through as a forward. He's got a glut of talls. I know Rory Lobb had a goodish season, but he's had a poor few weeks. The tall conundrum must be driving Bevo crazy. So what do you do next year?
Well, I think you said it before about Sydney. It's like you got to go out. You're saying, well, someone's out there that can help you. You got to
pay overs, get them in.
Maybe you do, because we know there's no shortage of talent, particularly through the midfield. It's like, do you give up on somebody to get a more valuable asset for you for next season?
D+, or what do you say, D-?
D-.
Is that fair, or would you give him an F?
No, I'm leaning the other way.
They might still win the flag.
They
might still win the flag.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know it's devastating, things like that. But to see some of the other teams get D-, they've had better years than some of those teams you've gave.
Look,
General rule: if you finish in the bottom 10, you're not doing.
But this is also expectations are baked into this quite a lot as well. I mean, we got to take expectation. It's the same reason why Richmond hasn't had a better season than the Bulldogs, but they got a better grade because they've outperformed expectations. I'll give you a quick bonus one. I know we're moving on. Gold Coast. Let's say they lose to Essendon and miss out.
Big fat F.
They'll be the 4th F, and it will be the biggest capitulation in football history. It'll be the biggest choke job in football history. The first team ever to lose twice in the last round of the season and go from potentially 3rd to 9th. It has to be an F.
Yeah.
That's not happening.